Greetings, cringers. Have you ever thought Pokémon Unite is too hard? Have you ever wished there was something that could make it much easier to make the enemy team think exactly the same thing? Are the Pokémon Unite developers actually sadists? Well, I have the solution for you. It starts with AC, attaches to you, and makes you feel very good. That's right. It's a cock ring. Comfey.
But looks can be deceiving. This little shit might look innocent, but it thrives off the suffering of others. And in a game where Timmy likes to release Pokémon more broken than fine china under a gust of wind, adding Comfey, a pure enabler to the equation, is a recipe for a ranked meta where if you aren't playing said China or this flower power looking ass, you're playing a side character. Comfey is a buff for anyone it attaches to. However, to do this is to give up map vision, game presence, and put all of your eggs into one proverbial basket for just one single player. But what if the Pokémon Comfey is pocketing isn't a traditional carry, or even a carry at all? How far can you go before it's considered trolling? Welcome to your worst nightmares. Welcome
to the Comfey buff. Before we start burning the kitchen down, first we need to start with some baselines. We've all seen the Zoroark Comfey and the Dodrio Comfey combos. In fact, the common denominator for a good Comfey pairing is that it's a brawler. However, brawler carries are out of the question here because they're such common pairings and it'll be boring. And this isn't an excuse to not play brawlers because I'm dogshit at them. It's quite the contrary. It's because I've become too powerful and you all know it. Just look at this clip of my Zoroark. It's definitely not just a monkey mashing a keyboard and miraculously reciting Shakespeare. We will be journeying to lands not yet traveled to by Interkind, so we need something that's good, not a brawler, and can make Comfey work. This means it's time to have some fun, which means the other team is about to have very little. And the perfect Pokemon for this is Espeon. And before you all go,
oh but KJ, you played Espeon in the last video.
Or
KJ, you're basically an Espeon one trick now after swapping to Mage in comp you point and click move loving Troglodyte.
To which I say you're right, but the reason Espeon is so good is because fuck you. Keep watching and you'll see. We start the game and our top lane is Rowlet Meryl, so I'm already feeling very good about my team's chances this game. The bottom lane early game starts less than ideally as we lose contested, but it's okay because this purple rat hits its endgame power spike at level 4, and fortunately, that's not hard to do. The enemy jungler comes to the bottom lane to ask me if he can use my ring, but instead of politely saying no, I beat him half to death and tell him to fuck off. We lost a lot of the birds due to our lack of secure, but I fire another warning shot toward their Sylveon saying if you ask me again, I'll make you wish you hadn't. Meanwhile, in top lane, my Rowlet had passed away. And instead of going back, he decided that taking the blue buff would be a better use of his time. However, my absolute gigachad of an Absol player decides not to fight it, and instead roams mid to catch the Sylveon who had just walked up. The Sylveon quickly realizes how much shit he's in once he sees me again, and despite my best efforts, the ring he wanted so badly kills him itself. Bingus the Dingus over here comes down to the bot lane to see the ring his team has been talking so much about for himself, and almost gets custody of it before I flash away and make it out safely. My Absol, having seen Bingus's attempt to take the ring for himself, decides murdering him would be the best course of action. However, Sylveon, still mad about me saying no earlier, sees a good opportunity to take the ring forcefully, but again, my Absol sees this and decides to murder him too, for daring to steal that pleasure for themselves. I go for a quick swing before deciding to remove Bingus the Dingus from the bottom lane for the second time. Oh, would you look at that, a Registeel. Anyway, the other team wants it, but little do they know that after wearing this Comfey all game, I'm rock hard and ready to go. I waste no time by edging Bingus with the finest quality purple things, before accidentally finishing him about 10 seconds later. We break their bottom pad and commit a silly little crime on their Blastoise, before I lend my Comfey to the rest of my team to commit the same silly little crime to the Registeel. Bingus the Dingus returns to find that his bot pad is now missing, so I send him back home before flashing their Delphox, but not in the way he probably would have wanted, and complete the double homicide. Now, the reason Espeon Comfey is so good is because Espeon is a really good kiter in fights, as well as hurting more than a good kick to the nuts. Espeon already has really good damage, secure. Oh, there goes Bingus again. Where was I? Espeon already has really good damage, secure, stuns, and slows, which makes it the top choice for mages at the moment. However, if you throw a Comfey on it, Espeon can fight for longer, get more aggressive, and chase down enemies easier with the speed boost Floral Healing Plus gives you. Not to mention that if Espeon has blue buff, stored power goes on a 2-second cooldown after ulting. And you start to wonder if Timmy released this Pokémon, or it escaped. Anyway, we're at the end of the game now, and this is where Espeon Comfey really comes into its own. Delphox gets me to flash in the way he would have wanted this time, and I make a retreat to the berry. Unfortunately, my Azumarill and Decidueye decide that dying would be the optimal play in this situation, and my Absol quickly joins them after removing their Delphox's living privileges. This leaves an Espeon and Comfey against the world, except their Blastoise is backcapping and their Espeon is trying to stop Lecky for some reason. This instead leaves me with two of them. Unfortunately for Bingus the Dingus and he who wants my Arab strap, I'm still rock hard and ready to go, so I wait for Sylveon to finish whatever the fuck it's doing up there and come down before ulting. Bingus the Dingus immediately eats shit, but Sylveon makes a run for it, not mentally prepared yet for what it just saw. Sylveon tries to hide in the bush, but my ring's defense mechanism finds him and brutally tickles him to death. After this point, the enemy team had no chance as they kindly threw themselves at us one by one, getting picked off like pigeons at a shooting range, and we win the game. It turns out that putting Comfey on an Espeon is actually kind of good, and we didn't just do this once, we did it several times and the results were almost always the same. I would love to move on to the more troll picks, but there's just one more thing I want to try before that. The tree. Trevenant's most recent buff to Pain Split decreases the damage taken below 70% maximum health by 30 to 40%, and Curse was also buffed to slow and damage more. This means that not only is Trevenant more unkillable than before, it can also run you down, stick to you, and kill you better. With a Comfey, I should be basically unkillable unless the Comfey hops off, and even then it would be difficult to kill me without anti-heal. The early game was actually pretty average. Our lane was Buzzwole Squirtle, so it should have been rough, but I got Curse up at 820, and managed to get some picks on their bot laners after the 8-minute birds. I quickly discovered that the enemy Buzzwole was aware of the Pain Split threat, pushing me away from him when I tried to latch on. However, although he was aware of the threat, he clearly wasn't aware of what it did as he tries to fight me and essentially commits die. From this point on, with my Comfey being fed and with the Regice buff, I became
unstoppable.
so that went well. I like to think the other team surrendered not because they were losing, but because I was harder to kill than your average cockroach. With that, our control tests are done and I'd say we collected some very good data. Giving Espeon a pocket Comfey allowed it to be more aggressive and able to fight more, whereas giving one to Trevenant made it basically unkillable. Now, it's time to take those findings and apply it in more unconventional, unhinged, and unsportsmanlike ways. First, Snorlax. More specifically, Flaylax. The Flail moveset on Snorlax is less used than a Smash player's shower, and anyone who plays it is either seen to be trolling or just really shit. However, I'm both trolling and really shit, so I'm more qualified for the job than a munted brain surgeon. And I have a Comfey with me, so what's the worst that can happen? My Cramorant decides that the forbidden 3-1-1 laning tech is optimal here, so decides to tag along to what will be a lane matchup freer than downloading League of Legends and playing that instead. Anyway, I get my 4th stack and flail, which you would expect most people to be afraid of. But these two enemy players have 2 brain cells between them and they're both fighting for 3rd place, so I give them the hands and make the funny countdown timer appear on their screens. I get my 6th stack and see that my Cramorant is top lane again, so I decide that he's probably fine and take my talents to the bot lane where it looks like I'm needed. It turns out that I'm the biggest thing on the ruins both literally and figuratively, and I beat their frog thing 6 feet under before turning on their Slowbro and doing the same thing to him. My Cramorant was clearly not fine in the top lane, so I start heading back up and find their Gyarados committing a spot of violence towards the birds in mid, so I go all the equalizer on his ass and send him to fish hell. The enemy blue buff was up and it was looking mighty delectable, so I start beating it up before the very strong and brave Rowlet steals it from me. But bravery gets you nowhere against a big bear and its shaft choker, so I make short work of the valiant hero before sending their fish back to where it came from. Their Gecko and my Cramorant are having a rematch in the top lane, so I go up and do the only reasonable thing and honor that 1v1 by scoring behind them. My Cramorant tragically dies, so it's time to kill this guy like I'm Fat John Wick, and while I'm too slow to catch him, my weapon of choice has no issue finishing him off. I tell Lecky there's a flying water type waiting at the enemy tier 2 goal, so like any electric type would, it gets excited and starts running. I find their Gecko peacefully farming, so I put him to sleep and beat the shit out of him. I'm sure he felt nothing. Anyway, Lecky has found their flying water type. But the only thing scarier than that for their Gyarados this game is Cocaine Bear, and unfortunately for him, the bear is here. Itsy Bitsy Spider over here decides it would be a good idea to ping me like I haven't been carrying his ass all game, which send me into a fit of rage as I run through the enemy jungle looking for the closest fluffy animal to spifflocate. Unfortunately, I find 3 of them and they're all sick of my bullshit, so I start running. However, I'm more stuck than your average stepsister and the enemy team is finally able to euthanize Cocaine Bear. This bear has at least 2 lives, and they're trying to push bot lane. I try to think up cool, funny and creative ways I could murder them this time while making my way down. Fortunately for them, this bear is really dumb and only knows how to beat the shit out of someone and sleep. Unfortunately for them, this bear only knows how to beat the shit out of someone and sleep. I try to take Registeel, however, my carries are too busy sucking each other off, and with the other team's infinite secure, they steal it. I am rather displeased with this outcome, but my team starts winning a fight without me for once, so I come back and put their Slowbro to sleep before penetrating him. My Mimikyu learned how to count to at least 40, so good for him, but upon trying to leave, their Gyarados thundercunts it towards us again, looking to add yet another death to his impressive record so far. We force his ult and he runs away a bit before giving up and letting me kill him, but not as hard as Slowbro let me kill his Venusaur, because he had ult this entire time and I run straight past him like a dodgy Vindaloo. Do you want to know how I knew he had ult? So anyway, their Gyarados shows up again and I have to start running, because if I have to kill him again I might start to feel bad. My dumbass cat runs into them and insta dies, which I'm not surprised about. But the longer I stick around, the more the urge to go full goo goo gaga on these clowns grows. Instead of fighting, I choose instead to make the blue rope thing's ankles disappear and keep running for the other team's safety. The enemies kept chasing us, however, and my Comfey mistakes a suspicious yellow rat for a big fuck-off bear and I almost die. That was until I did die trying to limit test. My Cramorant, however, was doing the first useful thing all game and got a Quadra. Fast forward to the part of the game where the green silly string spawns and I have taken up residence in the enemy L bush. However, my Comfey decides giving away my position would be funny. Their Slowbro must be the top 1 worst ult user OCE, because what the fuck is this? I go back to my den waiting for my moment to strike, but the other team collapses on me instead. But unfortunately for them, this bear is ready to come out of hibernation and fuck shit up. The rest of the game was a walkover after taking Ray, and they couldn't even get out of base against this combo. It was honestly better than I thought it'd be and a lot of fun to play. We played this 4 times and each time, Flayalax reigned supreme, even in the game we lost because I did 100k damage and instilled the fear of God in the enemy team. But now it's time to move from the big bear to another big thing, something fast, funny, and very good for a reason other than what I'm about to show you. Introducing Big Lasagna. Crustle recently entered both the ranked and competitive meta as an effective tank that can trap dashless Pokémon using Rock Tomb, allowing your team to quickly deal with them. However, the other moveset, Shell Smash, gives you a speed and attack boost by sacrificing your defenses. This is not as good because you, as the tank, are sacrificing your survivability so that your funny claw move does more damage. But what if you brought your Comfey along? Surely the healing from Comfey would mitigate the lost defenses when fighting. That's what we're about to find out. The lane goes pretty well because the other team sent their Doduo here, but things start to get interesting once the junglers show up. I secure all of the 850 birds and we kill their Chernobyl chicken with the help of our jungler. I go looking for my 4th stack, but fucking jungle Mamoswine of all things rocks up and sticks his things into me. Fortunately though, I'm Big Lasagna. After mids I head back down to find my team gangbanging their bot lane, so I turn up and give my 2 cents on the situation before breaking the goal. Instead of setting up for bot Reggie like good little boys and girls, we all decide the best thing to do in this situation is to push towards their tier 2 goal and kill ourselves, but I get out. The rest of the team chases my low health ass all the way back to our bot goal, and my Buzzwall was clearly not aware of what was about to hit him. We lose bot Reggie and we die trying to help our Zacian, but I forgot that you should never help a Zacian player no matter how doomed they look. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, and the enemy team was about to learn the hard way why you don't fuck with Big Lasagna. I begin by removing one of Chernobyl Chicken's 3 heads before making a move on Big Tony in the middle area. Their Mewtwo could only watch in horror as I turn my attention to him, and after rubble arousing all over him, I chase him down and my Comfey finishes him off. I make a detour through the enemy jungle to their top goal to score 56 points on whatever the fuck this is. It turns out the entire enemy team didn't like that and turn up faster than Twitter bots in a comment section. But I do ankle surgery on all of them simultaneously and run into the jungle. I then outplay them again because they still can't walk properly, but Mewtwo shows up and ruins everything as he normally does. But I make it out alive, no doubt because of Comfey. The rest of the game consisted of me running around looking for opportunities to scissor them. I found the optimal playstyle of this setup is to run in, get a big hit off, run out again, get healed, then go back in for more. You're still very killable in an all-in fight, but because you have so much mobility and immediate access to healing, in fights that are more drawn out, all you have to do is give yourself a little time to reset, and go again. We've hit the Ray fight now and we're a long way ahead, but their lax scores bot and makes the game a bit closer. However, there was no real Ray fight and we just fought them in the bottom lane until we won. This was by far the most fun I've had playing this absolutely dog water game in a while, and the Comfey was such an enabler for Crustle in this instance, allowing me to play without many limitations. Before we move on, there was one absolute banger Crustal game I forgot to record, but I had a replay buffer ready for this and it pretty much sums up what this combo is all about. Everything up until now you could put a Comfey on and get away with it. However, our last few Pokemon will not. The first of these is Eldegoss. Now, Eldegoss can do a lot of damage if you build it right and play under the right circumstances. Not only that, but there are two different Eldegoss builds that you can do quite a lot of damage on. The first is Cotton Spore Pollen Puff, and is your more support type build, but instead of focusing your healing on others, you use it on yourself in fights to help sustain when running in for knockups with Cotton Spore, helping your team engage or chase an enemy. The other is Leaf Tornado. This move gives any teammates who touch it a short speed boost, and is a good range damage option. Leaf Tornado Plus also blinds enemies, meaning any enemy hit by it will miss all of their auto attacks for a whole 2.5 seconds. Think of the Pollen Puff move set as a brawler type, and Leaf Tornado as an ADC type. I would like to show you both, but the average Pokemon Unite player's attention span is about 3 seconds and this video is 23 minutes long. So I'll just show you a Leaf Tornado game, and I definitely didn't forget to record the Pollen Puff ones. You're just gonna have to believe me. Starting the game, we have an avid enjoyer of the 113 meta of prehistoric times heading to lane with us. But then I realize, oh, he thinks one of us should go top because we're both supports. Too bad for this non-free thinker who thinks Eldegoss is just a healer. I'm staying right the fuck here. Our early game is actually kind of good for obvious reasons. But one thing I knew coming into this was that the early game was the only part of the game where this was going to be good. The rest of it would be a coin toss. We get our stacks in, take the 915 farm, and stay pushed up just because we can, before 850s spawn. We manage 3 stacks before their jungler shows up to the bottom lane and we start backing off. We get a pick on the Machop before realizing, where the fuck is this Dartrix's red buff, and we push our luck for another stack. We finally make our retreat and start to do some scouting. I catch Dartrix with their pants down in the jungle, but I'm a nice guy so I let him live, killing Machoke instead and taking red buff as my prize. One massive strength of this setup is that you are super fast. Not many things can catch you if you combo Cotton Spore and Leaf Tornado together, but once Comfey gets Floral Healing Plus, we won't be caught. I catch their bird napping again, but then this is less than ideal. The roided up Bingus has a Comfey too, which is going to make things a bit more difficult. I decide to fight him to see what the gap is here, but I actually almost kill it. But this is Pokemon Unite, and of course the thing they designed to be fucking broken wins. It definitely wasn't because he got lucky with pad shield timing and he had berries and his Decidueye showed up. Anyway, he secures Lecky and top lane is looking kind of doomed, especially when Lecky does this, but it doesn't matter if my cat commits mass murder. After breaking top goal, I return to my home, the enemy team's jungle, and try to take my red buff, but this very rude Machoke does whatever the fuck this is to me. Fortunately, he gets what he fucking deserves for doing that, and there shows up to see what's going on. Unfortunately for him, my Eldegoss is built different and my Comfey puts one between his eyes, before we move on to teaching their Comfey a lesson. This was the part of the game where I feared I would start falling off. Everyone else would start out scaling me even if I have the same XP growth as them. And to a certain extent I was right because my mid-game was kind of rough for a little while, but it was also because I started getting caught out a bit. However, by this point I had started to learn how I should be playing this, and from here on out, no fun was allowed. This was actually pretty fun. Until the next game when it wasn't. And my Charizard had this to say about it.
I get that you two are playing as a 2-stack, like a Comfey healer, but like, could you heal the other members of the team as well? Pretty stupid combo.
And he's not wrong. It's a pretty stupid combo, but that's the point. So Yummy Pasta fan, if you're watching this video, thank you for pointing that out so I don't have to, and sorry you weren't on the other team in the last game so I could kick your ass with it. I also had a third game where I dropped a penta on Eldegoss, which is in the intro credits, so go back to that if you want to see it. But now, it's time to move on to our penultimate Pokemon. It's pink, pink, and pink, and it also kind of heals. It's Clefable. Now, your first thought should be, what the actual fuck are you doing? But hear me out. It's funny. But also because Draining Kiss has 159% special attack scaling and the shield on Follow Me has 260% special attack scaling. I don't need a Comfey for this, but for the highest chance of making people go, what the fuck, why is this Clefable doing so much damage? It's better to have one. What better time to try this out than on season reset day when everyone is trying to speed run back to Masters so they can get their top 10,000 world ranking for a day and feel really special. My first game on this, however, went really badly. So badly in fact that this player who's probably hard stuck in mum's basement Elo thought I was trolling. Me? Trolling? Never. I'll prove that this can be good, because I had learned some very important things from that first game. The first was that if you don't have a good early game, you're not going to have a good game in general. And the second was that if this was going to work, I would need all 6 of my stacks early and the right comps on both sides. In the second game, I got just that. The game started off very well. Their Pikachu was addicted to getting farm low for us to secure, so I ended up with 3 stacks before turning on the 920. Their Pikachu is not aware of the threat we already pose and pays for it, before their Squirtle suffers the same fate. Hey guys, welcome to my magic show. Today we're going to make the enemy team's health bars disappear. The enemy jungler shows up, which is a choice I think he regretted about as quickly as his health bar disappeared. And for my next trick, it's time for the 8-minute birds. The other team's Pitbull still hasn't learned their lesson and gets put down. Upon hearing about the death of their beloved dog, the entire enemy team shows up mid to get revenge. Unfortunately for them, this Clefable has 6 stacks, a Comfey, and a taste for blood. Their Azu starts to talk a lot of shit for someone within kissing range, so they get exactly that. After seeing this, the Ninetales literally shits themselves after I try to get their attention. Their turtle shows up, followed by the rat, and both think they can finally kill the monster in sheep's clothing, but they were mistaken. We allow the rat to live so he can tell the rest of the team about the oncoming threat to bot lane. I arrive in the bot lane and we secure a Reginald Rock. I put myself in a small pickle before our funny motorbike shows up. Kills them all, and we break the goal. I go on holiday to the enemy jungle where I find their Pitbull again. He immediately ults me for some reason which I literally don't care about, before rolling beam on my ult and removing half of the Stoies' health because
It's funny.
Unfortunately for this Absol, I have an amp buff and my kiss does a whole 1628 damage to this poor guy, before doing a further 1200 to the Stoies. The Pitbull gets taunted and my Comfey finishes it off. After my short holiday in the enemy jungle, I get back to work in the lanes. Our first victim is the Ninetales, who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then this Azu, who again got too close, and gets another big smooch. The Ninetales shows up again and I need to leave, but my Scissor doesn't. He tragically passes away, but not before taking out the Ninetales first. I decide to wait for the enemy team to pass me by, and I do way too much damage to the Absol. Unfortunately, I whiff my ult and he lives, but not for much longer. With the turtle's help, we clean up the bot lane before they just respawn and run at us again. I'm convinced this Absol has a hard-on for me because this is the second time he's tried to solo ult me. I'm not really that much of a threat. Am I? Anyway, fast forwarding a bit, I have this rat in my crosshairs. I hit him with a single draining kiss for half of his health, and if he wasn't using the average Pikachu player's natural defense mechanism, he would have died. I kind of just sit top for an entire minute doing absolutely nothing, so let me talk about this combo. It's so fucking troll, but under the right circumstances, it can be alright, but you're not going to be dropping 100,000 damage or getting heaps of kills very often. The draining kiss move is more of a tank move, but if any ally is close to you when you use it, the move makes Clefable basically useless. I'm hoping to mitigate that risk by running a Comfey, which is helping, but when your only damaging move also heals you, Comfey is also kind of redundant most of the time. Nevertheless, I'm doing heaps of damage and that's the main point of this idea. Anyway, we've hit the Ray fight and I'm feeling very good about my team's chance of winning the game here. However, that quickly vanishes when Absol fucking solo ults me again, and I die before the fight really starts. Fortunately, my coworkers are good at their jobs and they clean up. I secure Ray with water gun and the rest of the game is a formality. I won't lie, this worked out better than I thought it would, so I started thinking bigger. And then I had an idea. I thought maybe, just maybe, this could work. Like fuck me, if Clefable worked, why can't this work too? I tested some builds. Rechecked the theory. Looked at the EOS Cup pick ban rates, and there it was. It was all I needed. I've done lots of damage on Blissey before. Surely with a Comfey I could do it again. The plan was simple. I run Safeguard Helping Hand on Blissey and my Comfey heals me. I could be doing up to 1900 base damage on Helping Hand at level 8. And with stacks, who knows how much it'll be. What if I crit? Surely we'll be fine. However, I was so wrong. I finally found it. After everything, this was one step too far. But let's not allow this to take away from the fact Comfey allowed some rarely played movesets to shine. And under the right circumstances, allowed some Pokémon to do things they shouldn't. Thank you for watching. And farewell, cringers.